Attorneys on both sides of the Kim Potter trial laid out their cases and closing arguments yesterday. Day one of jury deliberations lasted more than 5 hours and are scheduled to continue later this morning for day two. Joining us once again to discuss suburban Chicago Police Officer Sergeant Betsy Bratner-Smith and military defense attorney Davis Younts. Good morning to you both. Thanks for coming on to Wake Up America.
Good morning.
Now, Davis, Potter's tearful testimony provided one of the most memorable moments of the trial. Do you think taking the stand in self-defense was the right move?
You know, I really feel in a case like this, she almost had to. Her defense attorneys prepared her well, I believed, and I think she had to tell her side of the story and ensure that the panel members, this jury, had a chance to understand things from her perspective. So I do think that was critical here.
You know, and Sergeant Smith, we've discussed this case before. You said mistakes do happen and human error could cause someone to confuse a taser for a gun. As we know, that's kind of what they're arguing on Potter's side. What are you hoping comes from this high-profile case?
Well, what we're hoping is that people really start to understand that when you don't comply with the lawful orders of a police officer, things can get chaotic and chaos causes danger. That's what Potter said, that the situation suddenly turned to chaos. Kim Potter didn't bring the chaos to that traffic stop. Deontay Wright brought the chaos. All he had to do was comply with the lawful order that he submit to the arrest of a weapons violation. But again, as he bragged about multiple times on social media, his thing was to run from the police. That's why the National Police Association puts out a PSA constantly asking people to comply now. And if you don't like what happened, complain later. We have got to start teaching, especially young people, that you need to comply with the lawful orders of a police officer and not create the kind of chaos that Deontay Wright did that led to Kim Potter making this terrible mistake, which was horrible, but it wasn't criminal.
Sure, and I remember over a year ago when this incident happened, one of the things that came out was how he evaded arrest there. Now, Davis, Potter testified she didn't perform her mandatory spark test for her taser the day of that fatal incident. Could this have impacted her thought process in the moment?
I don't believe it did, and I don't believe it would. I don't think that's the kind of testimony that we heard in this trial that's going to make a difference. This jury is going to have to focus on really two questions. One is whether or not deadly force was justified based on the circumstances, and also whether or not these actions, the mistake that was made, truly rose to the level of a crime. I don't believe things like whether or not a spark test was done within the 24-hour period. I just don't think that jury's going to spend a lot of time talking about things like that.
And Sergeant Smith, we're a little tight on time here, so quickly, as we keep seeing with these cases, especially leading up to this one, it seems like these divisive trials, post-verdict protests are a concern. So regardless of this final decision, people are most likely going to be unhappy on one side. What should the level of concern be over public reaction?
I think it's going to depend on the weather. It's going to depend on a lot of factors. But absolutely, if Kim Potter isn't convicted, we will probably see some sort of riots. And again, we're at a point now where we have got to follow the law. And American law enforcement, if Kim Potter is convicted, we're not going to protest. We're going to go get on with our jobs, get on with our lives, and protect the American public. That's what we do.
Like you're mentioning, cold weather right now. Davis, real quick, right before we go, how long do you see the jury deliberating before a verdict is reached?
Oh, I think there'll be several more hours at a minimum. They've got some difficult issues to deal with here.
Okay, thank you so much, Sergeant Betsy Bratner-Smith and military defense attorney Davis Younts. Coming up next.